Yeah. So we're live. Justin doesn't want to be a part of this?
No.
No? Okay. So I'm excited about our first episode of podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts, really enjoy them, and I like the long form conversations that people can have. I guess we should say that we're baseball academics Midwest primarily, but I think this is a good opportunity just to talk baseball a lot of times, and I guess the academics portion of it, maybe educate audiences of our views of certain things in baseball, along with just talking about baseball and having fun. You know, I mean, that's, I think, why we should show up for these kinds of things. You know, if it turns into other stuff, but, you know, talking baseball is one of my favorite things to do.
I hate it.
You hate it? Absolutely.
No,
Absolutely.
We just do it for a living.
It's the worst. But, you know, for those people that don't know much about, you know, just BAM in general, I don't think necessarily we're here as BAM, we're here as baseball fans. But a lot of the things that we do in baseball involve, you know, youth sports, high school baseball, travel organizations, and a hot topic, especially once we get, you know, at this time of the year, we just finished, you know, our signing day. We had our signing day for Fast Pitch Academics recently, you know, had our signing day for Baseball Academics Midwest recently, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired.
Oh, I'm exhausted.
I'm ready to play, but I'm mostly tired from the whirlwind of, you know, what is the recruitment process that leads up to signing day.
Ugh.
And this is what this is our fifth year now of travel sports. I wouldn't even call the first year of us coaching together.
We didn't even know what we were doing.
It wasn't a recruitment thing. We showed up for an open tryout of a team that neither one of us really knew anything about, small time organization, and, you know, we picked the best of what we had to pick from.
Right.
And aside from that, that's when our kind of recruitment process starts. And I mean, every year I learn more and more about kind of what is going on, but I'm interested really in, I guess, everybody's take as, you know, you've been a high school coach for, this is going on your, what, fourth year now? Fifth year now. So head coach, this will be your second year as a head coach. Third year as a head coach. This will be my first year assisting. Obviously, we're all in the travel world together, just interested in different perspectives of the recruitment side of baseball, because there's obviously recruiting in travel baseball and youth sports. There's noticeably recruitment in high school baseball, even though there's not supposed to be. I'm not saying that we do any of those kinds of things, you know, let's get that out in the way. But the process itself, good, bad, you know, everybody's thoughts on it. I mean, like I say, it's exhausting in travel for sure, because what I think is noticeable most about travel sports is that there is zero governing body that tells you how to do it.
It's the Wild West.
It's the Wild West, absolutely.
It is the Wild West. And the fact that it's supposed to be summer ball, season ends last week of July, and you have kids choosing to play that last tournament or go to tryouts is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And we're having to cut season shorter and shorter just to have tryouts versus actually having a full season.
Right.
And literally coaching a high school age team, we were in week 4, halfway through, and people were talking about next year. I mean, nobody focuses on the year they're in because they just are worried about that next year.
Right.
And everybody will say anything to everybody to try to get them. Everyone's going D1. I don't know if you knew that.
Everybody's going D1.
Everybody, your kid is a D1 talent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what people just say to get
what do you think causes
Well,
that?
also, I mean, one thing that causes that is you have every travel ball coach watching every other game. So he's like, wow, I really like that kid. I'm going to go talk to his parent with no sanctioning body. Week 3, that parent is now thinking about the next best thing. Who came up, showed them attention.
Right.
That's what they think about at that time.
Right. You said like 4 weeks in, people are already thinking about next year.
Yeah.
What do you think manifests that? Where does that come from? Is that coming from, like, you think winning teams are usually, or even when winning teams, like, kids are thinking about next year, like, what am I going to be doing next year now? And like, where does that start? Does that start from the first conversation a coach has with their best player that they know is going to be getting recruited, or does this start from the player? Like, is a player thinking before any coaches even come up to him, what am I doing next year?
I think it's fueled by the parents. So-and-so came up and talked to me in the middle of the game, and that kid starts thinking about it from that point. Let's face it, he's thinking about
I think they see it as a compliment, real quick. I mean,
they do.
The first time
it's showing them attention, and they like that.
Right. I'm not speaking from somebody that's, because I never was really ever recruited towards many baseball things, but I know when I hear people talk about, you know, either a college has recruited me or another team came up and talked to me, it's flattering. You know?
Sure.
And then you immediately think about, we'll show you next year. That's
Yeah,
probably where I think it starts.
and that's where it comes from.
Well,
the kids just think about playing ball that day.
The thing is, one, you mentioned good teams. They don't care,
Right.
to an extent.
Right.
It's about being recruited.
Mm-hmm.
Younger age teams, they want to win. Older, you still want to win, but it's not about that anymore. So even if you're a good team, you have people that aren't playing that think they should be playing, so they want to go somewhere else.
Right.
You have groups of friends that form that as soon as one leaves, it can be a domino effect. Everybody else leaves. And some of it comes down to who's coaching that team and if they like that coach and where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And loyalty is no longer, they should just pluck that out of the dictionary at this point in regards
Right.
to travel ball. I mean, there's no such thing as like giving a commitment to a team until you got the money in and they're playing for you and they have their uniform, all that. Like, people are still moving. We're September and we still have people moving teams and people getting calls to be recruited, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't end. It doesn't end.
Do you think the way things are normally gone about, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? The way the whole process works.
I think it's terrible.
Terrible.
But the problem is, and there's a few teams in every state that kind of dictate, right? Because there's programs that have been around longer that are better known and all of that. So when they set their tryouts, everybody else really has to set their tryouts around that. So if there's teams that are trying out end of July and you wait till the third week of August, you're missing out on a lot of kids because if they don't make your team, they have nowhere to play.
Right.
If you go earlier,
But the
then
problem with the process, you're losing all of the good tournaments.
Right.
Last week of July, first 2 weeks of August, there's good baseball to be played.
oh, absolutely.
And instead, we're running around doing the grind of
Right.
who are we trying out for, who offers the best things, and that's crap. We should be playing baseball still.
And why do we do that too?
It's summer ball for a reason.
And I think the reason we do that is, the unfortunate thing is, even as an organization that's young, I feel like BAM, I'm not going to do this whole thing as like a complete talking about BAM kind of thing, but
Here he goes.
the winter program that we have, like, we feel like we offer a lot as an organization.
We do.
But no matter what, there's certain teams that set the market of how things are done. So the top teams, and like you said, of any state,
Mhm.
we have to do, like, we have to schedule at least. We don't have to act in such ways, but we have to schedule things in ways that are dictated by what those big market teams do. The marketplace, unfortunately, decides for us, because you know, we talk about when we're going to schedule our tryouts, we have to either schedule our age, at least our age groups. If we're going to have them on the same day, our age groups have to be different from what those other teams are doing.
Right.
You know, if we're going to do them on the same day, if we're going to do it a week before, are we jumping the gun? If we do it a week after, are we missing out on people that we may have wanted to recruit? You know, so unfortunately, I think the marketplace dictates, at least scheduling purposes, who does that. But like, I mean, when I'm thinking about this, you know, we talked about this topic beforehand of the process itself, and like, we all have our feelings about it. It is an emotional thing, but without that governing body, without there being set rules, I mean, who's to say, and I'm just being devil's advocate here, that who's to say that anybody is breaking any rules, that anybody is doing anything wrong? It emotionally sucks. You know, but if there's nobody that's saying, like, this is how it has to be done, people are going to do whatever they want to do.
But with
organizations.
with no sanctioning body, there's no such thing as rules.
No, there isn't.
So
There isn't a
you
rule.
can't break anything
Right.
at that point.
What I fall back to, and I know a few organizations use it, we're one of them with the Matheny Manifesto, is like, if your goal as an organization, as a player, as a team,
What's
is
the
to...
manifesto for people that don't know what it is?
So long story short, it's written by Mike Matheny. It breaks down basically roles of parent, player, and coach on a team. It's all about respect, all about how to go about your business in the right way. Really good read, really easy read. But if that's your goal and you're going to follow that, or you're a family that has morals and character and you promote those things openly, then the idea of saying to somebody, yes, I'm committed, we're going there, and then a week later saying, you know, actually we're not, we're going to go somewhere else, that's just wrong. It's just not the right move if you're trying to teach your kids character. Now, on the same token, if it's just a much better situation for the kid to get the right playing time, be in front of the right people, it makes sense. But I still think there's a way to handle that without losing dignity in that process of doing it the right way and going about the business the right way, making sure the kid is doing that,
Right.
And leading some of that based on age. But I think a lot of it now is just, it's done the wrong way, and because there's nobody there's no repercussions for anything, everybody just kind of goes about it and makes it seem like none of it matters. It's just, and unfortunately for some of the kids, the parents are making those decisions.
Right.
Sometimes they're not, but a lot of times they are.
I mean, you're a parent of a kid that plays travel ball. Like, what are your thoughts of, like, what have you experienced just in the past? Because I know he's gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. His stock has definitely rise. So, I mean, I'm sure it starts early. Like, how does it work?
It does. I mean, it starts early. I'll be sitting in the middle of the game. Somebody will come up, ask me a few questions, and I don't wear a jersey that has his name on it, anything like that. So they'll just start off with, "Hey, this kid looks really good." A lot of times, either they know who I am, or they're just completely oblivious. And honestly, as a parent, you let them talk, see how far they'll go, and then you either let them know or you just let them walk down the line, depending on what type of person you are. And then for us, I mean, it really comes down to what people offer. And I don't mean, you can play for free, because we've heard that.
Yeah, what kind of offers have you had? Like, what people offer, like program? I mean, like, what are the ranges of offers you've had?
Free playing time. Free play for the whole summer. So $2,000 now becomes zero for us as a family, and that's a big plus for us.
Right.
For anybody.
For anybody, I mean, they tell you,
win.
hey, you no longer have to pay $2,000. It's now just your travel expenses. That's a huge plus for us if we were to take that.
Right.
But for us as a family, and for what's the best interest of my son, comes down to what an organization offers.
Right.
Let's face it, you have to have training to be able to play well.
Yeah.
That's just what it comes down to.
What about the kids that get, because there's definitely developmental organizations, there's showcase organizations. So what about the showcase organization? You know what I mean? Like, what about those kids? Are those kids just, they who they are, they get their training elsewhere?
Unfortunately, what I've seen, they get their training elsewhere, and you're offered nothing by that organization.
But here, I don't mind that. Here's
No,
the
I
thing.
don't either.
I think to me, it comes down to, it relates to like the college admissions process, right? And I worked in that field for a couple of years. But if every college, just even for sports recruiting, was just honest about what they saw in the kid, what they saw in the program, where they thought they would fit, kids would choose the right school. Transfer rate would be down.
Right.
And same thing with travel baseball. Transfer rate or switching of organizations and free agency wouldn't be a big deal if everybody was just honest. Like, there's organizations that say, hey, we're here to get you into college. Your training's on you. You're responsible for that. We'll get together for games. We'll give you the uniforms, go through our signs, and you go play.
Right.
If that's what you do and you're going to say that up front, I love that. Because now you can tell the kid, this is what we are. If you want to play here, great. If you don't, there's other options.
Right.
But there's so many places out there, unfortunately, who will tell you what you want to hear. We talk about, they'll say, we have an indoor baseball facility that you can train at any time, but it's like open from 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. and has dim lights and is in the basement of somebody's house.
Right.
It's not, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, they just,
or
what they say
share
isn't
it
what
with
they do.
3 other organizations.
Right. Or they have a sponsor from a big baseball company because a dad works for that company. Or their kid didn't make a team, so now there's a new organization because you don't make a team, so start a team.
Right.
There was a big thing with that in the last few years. So there's just a lot out there that people aren't upfront. And that's the funny part. We're not, when organizations aren't upfront, and then they get mad when players aren't upfront, parents aren't upfront with them, they have no leg to stand on in regards to that loyalty standpoint.
Right.
So unless you're an organization that's being honest about what you offer, if somebody leaves from there and goes somewhere else, like, who are you to say they shouldn't have done that at that point? So we have to model, it comes back to modeling, right? We have to model what we expect from the players and how we act and what we do. And there's not a lot of that out there right now. But they don't know what questions to ask.
Right.
I mean, when they're getting recruited, they're flattered. But if you say, hey, what are the top 3 things you're looking for in a program? That's what you get.
Yeah.
You get nothing. I don't know. What do your uniforms look like? Who else is on the team?
Right.
Are we going anywhere fun? You mean fun, or are we going to compete somewhere? You know what I mean? Like, those are the questions. Right. It's like, well, and maybe we should do this, but
you also-
we need to send out, people need to have like, hey, if you're being recruited to play in a travel organization, here's the questions you need to ask. Here's the things you need to know. And maybe we make a chart and talk to other places. I would love to have
Say you
teams
go-
that fit those things.
say you
You
go
know,
with the
I want to
chart.
get people to the right place.
Does that change with age group?
Yeah,
Does that change
I think
with
so.
age? I
There's
mean,
certain-
it would have
What do
to
you mean?
because just what you're looking for in an organization is going to change.
It's gonna be different every
as your child's talent gets better, and it's going to change as they get older for what they're looking for in life at that time.
Right.
At 10, 11, 12, 13, I mean those younger age groups, I'm always looking for winter training. That's
Sure.
always number one, even at 16U like my son is now. But it's, winter training, coaching, what type of guy is he, what has he coached before, what level did he play at, and then where are we playing? Then becomes, as you get older, winter training once again is always number one. I still like to know who my coach is and what level of talent he's either played at or coached at. And then it's, as you get older, it's who are you putting them in front of at that point.
Right.
So it always changes a little bit as you get older.
Yeah. Oh, it does. It does, for sure. And you brought up some good questions to ask. And those are things most people don't ask. Who's coaching? What training does the coach have? How is that coach going to be developed or continue to be trained from this process? And there's really...
I like what you said, what you said about training does the coach have. I think that's a big thing. A lot of people are, I think, I can get back to your point, but I like the concept that you said training and not where did that coach play.
Right.
Where a coach plays and what experience he has on the field, it helps, but I don't believe it's the defining factor in what
Absolutely.
a coach can
Right.
provide for you or what an organization
Yeah.
can provide for you.
For sure.
So.
Well, no, there's two types of organizations. We have organizations where it's really just a lot of different teams wearing the same uniform that are just run by the coach, and
Right.
that's fine. And then there's other ones that are really run by the organization, and there's things that they do together, systematic things that every team does. But when you're talking about looking for a team, those are questions you have to ask. I mean, is it systematically going to be something that my son or daughter is expected to go through some of this? What does that look like? Does it match the same ideology that we have about how to play and what that looks like? And those are all important questions that nobody asks.
Right.
Nobody. And that makes it difficult to make decisions, especially because we take essentially a college recruiting process that's 3 years long, and we shove it into 1 month, 2 months. You got June, July, pick a team. If you don't have a team, well, hopefully somebody has an opening or somebody quits, because maybe in August you can find a spot.
Right. Right.
Good luck.
Right.
Oh, and in the meantime, also try to play at a high level in July so you get noticed.
Yeah.
In the middle of that.
No pressure.
Right.
No pressure.
As part of getting back to the idea of the process, I think we all agree that the recruitment of it, especially in the travel ball side, is very squirrely. A lot of people, like you said, will guarantee things, promise things, just to try to win somebody over. I think when you look at different states, there's the top market teams, the top dogs, probably about 5 teams in each state that really stand out, that have longevity, or at least a younger organization that does seem to be growing. There's obviously choices to be made. In an ideal world, what do you think players, when we talk to players at the beginning of the year, one thing we always say is that, hey, you have the best tryout opportunity than any other player that may be interested in playing for our organization next year, because we're going to see an entire body of work from the fall to the winter to the season to everything, to our practices,
Right
everything.
back to doing it all over.
So we're already implementing the idea of this may not be the place for you next year. You know what I mean? When in all entirety, I think we would all I would love for the team that will be coaching this next coming year, if everything works out great, I would love for it to just be that exact same thing the following year.
Just some lefties.
But obviously the process, get some lefties.
Just add some 6'4" lefties and we're good, man.
Right?
That's it.
So obviously the process is squirrely, but in order for a decision to be made, for someone to in their mind to think that they have a decision to be made, they have to at some point think that the spot they're in right now is not the spot they should be in next year. So in your guys' mind, what do you think retains people the best? As a parent, for example, like what would make you want to say like, I know my phone's ringing. I know this phone's ringing right now from another team that's interested. I'm not even going to answer because I'm happy about where I'm at. How often do you think that happens? And you know what I mean? That I think
25% of the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I think that's high.
you think it's high?
I think it's high.
Well, here's the thing. What phone is this?
This is an iPhone.
What year?
I'm poor, so this is an iPhone S.
And you probably looked at the new one, right?
Huh?
You probably at least looked at it.
I
thought about it.
Yeah, thought about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to have.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want it?
We
I don't know what that thing is in my pocket.
The grass is always greener. Our
grass is always
our
greener.
society is one where it's now telling kids like, oh, you have that game? Well, the new one's coming out next year. Or you have
Right.
this? Well, the new one's the
Right.
next one, the better version. So they're in a system and they fall into, they get used to it for the whole year. And it's
Right.
good. They like it. But what does this other program do? Because they're talking like they do something different. Maybe it's better.
Right.
And they don't know until they go and
Right.
figure it out. But
So
everybody
is-
wants to try something
So
different.
is it possible in your mind to not have my heart broken so many times, when we're recruiting people? I almost want to get rid of the thought of hopeful loyalty from people. You know what I mean? Like I hope that they would want to be loyal to the things that we offer as coaches at the travel ball stage and at the high school stage. Because in high school you can pick up and go anywhere you want to now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's some
It's-
restrictions.
there's some.
There's
They
some rules.
try to, but I mean, more often than not, that someone could change if they wanted to, and people
Yeah.
have to try to avoid that. So it's like
Well,
in this society, like you said, like with the newer, bigger thing, like I gotta.
I still think
Is it
with
just
travel,
on us?
I still think with travel ball, it comes down to wins and losses.
Yeah.
If you want to retain somebody, you have to go 750.
Right,
That's just it.
you gotta win.
right.
You've got to win.
But I would
You've
like
gotta
to,
win keep people.
back to your point about it changes at each age group. I would like to I think it's okay. I realistically think it would be okay for a 10-year-old team if a 10-year-old team goes out and performs in the tournaments that they're playing in and wins a third of the games. I don't think it's that big of a deal. People will treat it like it's a big deal because it's an emotional thing to lose. Nobody
The
wants
kids won't.
The kids won't. Yes.
Yes.
But the adults that are in the picture, I'm including coaches in that
Yes.
and players in that, and parents in that. But like, I think it's okay for a team, and to go out and struggle and not succeed in the wins column and in the trophy column, if what they are doing is understanding that they are working towards a bigger picture complex. A lot of times, especially when coaching with older age groups, and I dropped back down to coach 14-year-olds last year, a lot of the questions when I was recruiting people for that 14-year age group are like, what level of X tournament vendor are you guys going to be playing at?
Yeah.
And I had to explain to them, I understand that seems important now, and I understand that wins seem super important now, and that you want to be winning every weekend, but it doesn't matter what tournament vendor you're playing in as long as you're playing the best competition.
Right.
So
As long as you're playing your level of
are you
competition.
playing? Are you playing single A? Are you playing double A? Are you playing triple A? Like, we're going to play in what fits us best, that allows us the challenge. But understand that at a younger age group, it may seem like life and death now that we have only won a third of our games and our summer's ruined, and I think all these issues are here. But the what's the word I'm looking for? The keeping of a group together, which I think is what most coaches want to do.
Yeah.
Most organizations, keeping of a group together. Like a lot of things we've struggled with teams that we think, oh man, we should have lost that team. Those teams have played together for 3 or 4 years. It's a lot of the same kids, but they mesh well together. They're married together well. They aren't throwing 88 across the diamond every single one of them, but they don't do things wrong because they've done the same things.
But you know who else gets
Yeah.
along on those teams?
What?
The parents.
Yeah, the parents.
Because
exactly,
if parents don't get
100%,
along,
yeah.
then when kid gets in the car to go home or to and from game, then parent starts talking about other
Right.
parents or other kids, and that's where a team starts to fall apart.
Right.
That's why it all comes back to that
Unfortunately,
Matheny manifesto.
Yeah.
Stay out of it.
Yeah.
Stay out of
Let the kids play. You stay out of it.
Unfortunately, it always stems from the parents. Let's face it, you were talking about a 10-year-old team.
Right.
Little Johnny
Mhm.
is going to be much happier hanging out with little Jackie, who he's become best friends with.
Right.
Dad's going to be the one pissed off on the drive home that we shouldn't have lost that game. It's
Yeah.
so and
We
so's
need to get people out of that mentality. Understand that 10-year-olds, you're still 6 years, 6.
Nobody
maybe
knows how
7
they're
years.
going to develop.
Yeah,
Nobody
nobody
knows.
knows. So
It's
if you're
all
in
about fun
yeah,
at that
right.
point.
Yeah, at an
I had a
age,
Teach
great
them a love
time.
for the
Yeah.
game.
Teach them a love for the game. I had a
Yeah.
great time hanging out with so and so. Instead,
Right.
you've got dad on the way home, pissed off we lost a doubleheader that
Right.
day,
Right.
and telling me we're going somewhere
Right.
else to try out. And you
Right.
get that everywhere.
Because
Right.
here's the thing: if it's going to reach a point where families and players treat it to where there's absolutely no loyalty, they're going to come and go whenever they wish, then as
which is
organizations,
what I would say it's at right now.
well, if that's the case,
It's very close.
organizations have to also start thinking that way. To maybe instead of an A and a B team, you have a MLB and a AAA team, whatever you want to call it, and you're pulling guys up and down based on a weekend and tournament, based on how they're playing. You know what I mean? Like if there's
Right.
not going to be loyalty in one direction, you can't
Problem
expect there to
is,
be the other.
it's-
Right.
So
and this is playing devil's advocate on it. It's a business. Like I said, we've been offered to
sure,
play for free. We've been offered gloves,
Yep.
bats, whatever we wanted. Same time, if they want us to be loyal and not treat it like a business, they should be doing the same thing.
sure.
Right.
Oh, and I don't think this is a good option. Now, I think it's an intriguing option.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
hey,
Right.
sorry, Timmy, you got rocked last weekend. You're gonna stay down with our AA team. We're gonna pull this guy up to travel with us to Georgia for
Did
the
you
weekend.
hear
You're like,
what-
what?
Yeah.
That would be like if you take all emotion out of it.
Right.
That would actually be really cool
Right.
to manage that. But it's a terrible idea in regards to like player confidence, just overall like growth of kids, and
It's awful.
Right.
oh,
be
that would
terrible.
that'd be bad.
Yeah,
It'd be real bad. Don't do that.
Oh, talking about interesting like concepts in baseball. Did you hear what Joe Girardi suggested about like trying to keep the game fun and not getting more fans and stuff like that?
Oh boy.
I thought it's a cool idea. I'm not all for changing a lot of things in Major League Baseball. I think it's perfect as it is. But he implemented the idea of like that first half of the season being something that actually does dictate some playoff spots, and then kind of restarting it again in the second half of the season. So these teams that are 25 games back right now, and their season's been over since, mid-May, their season starts over a little bit.
But what
You know how-
happens
you know
to
how you
teams
fix-
that already clinched?
Huh?
What happens to the team that
you know how
won?
you fix
Because
that?
they're not going to care.
Now you're playing for your clinch. Now you're playing for home field advantage.
You know how you fix
Stuff
that?
like that. I mean, it's
Don't
interesting.
suck.
Right? Don't suck.
You're an MLB player. Don't
100%.
suck.
But I also just don't want. I don't want to get rid of shit if they're and do time limits and stuff like that. But we'll get
The
that's
time
a,
limit.
Here's the-
That's a topic for a
shifts.
different
We
day.
have to keep
No,
all
that's a
that.
topic for a different
Here's
day.
the thing.
That's a topic for a different day. Episode 2 coming at you. Why we think Major League's perfect and we don't need to change it.
If
right
you're
now.
trying to change it for the fan, you're going to fail anyway.
Exactly, 100% agree
So
with that.
if
Nobody-
They're
because
changing
you
it for
don't
the dollar. 'cause
you
they want
don't
more people to
need
show up.
you don't need to convince Major League Baseball players to be competitive. They've been competitive their whole life.
Right.
Their job is competitive.
Right, right.
So
They got there for a
you don't
reason.
need to tell them, hey, you get to start over.
Right.
You're
Do you
0-0
think-
now. Everybody
but
wins.
Do you think more people would show up to Cincinnati Reds games if they do the second half of the season?
I think a lot of people are showing up as long as they're playing the Cubs.
Right.
Cubs
I'm not
fans are
going to a
going.
Reds game anyway.
But look at how the Reds are playing right
Votto
now.
doesn't even go to Reds games.
No, it's true. He's not let in. But back to what we were talking about. So the younger age groups, I think they need to put more emphasis on
Enjoying the game.
enjoying the game and what is being. If I'm paying for travel ball, it's under the intention that I think my kid thinks he wants to do something bigger in baseball as he gets older. So trophies that you're going to have in a box in your basement when you're 25 years old
$25 trophy means nothing.
don't necessarily mean that that's what's going to get him to that point. So get yourself into a situation, especially at a young age, that will grow you to that. And if the team grows together and the team gets a lot better, maybe that's where we're talking about. Like I don't care about other options. I've
Right.
been, we've been together. This organization's gotten me to this point. Where I'm getting a lot better. I'm going to be getting better, more phone calls.
That's how I feel. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been here now. This is going on year 3 or 4.
3
with BAM. I can't say I haven't listened to other options. I can't.
There's no shame, no harm in ever listening.
I mean, you can never go wrong in listening.
Right.
Have we gone to other tryouts? Yes, but here's where because I am a coach as well, not at BAM, but for high school. But here's kind of where I lean towards. I like for my son to be pushed, so I'll take him to a tryout just to work his nerves out. Hey, go be pushed. Go see what somebody else thinks of you, to see maybe if they give you feedback that you're not hearing somewhere else, so you can build a different aspect of your game.
Right.
So that's my big thing. But for me, it's the winter training for us the last 3 years. How far he's come from where he was when he was 13 is just astronomical to me. So there's no reason for me to look anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
You can offer me the world, but you haven't proven to me what you can do like this place already has with their track record.
Right.
So that's what gets me on it.
What do you think the biggest issues are you run into when you're talking to a kid you're trying to recruit for a team? What are the biggest issues you run into as far as competing with other organizations?
Well, I mean, the first one right now for us is we're just young, so we're only going into year 5. I mean, it's going to help that we're now a Wilson Premier program. I mean, it never hurts to have that backing behind you, but
is that the reason you've heard the most for why?
Especially
kids
for
have said no.
Especially for upper age groups,
Okay.
because when it comes to recruiting, you got to build those relationships over time.
Right.
So, and we tell people that, but it doesn't mean we don't have connections. We're not going to get guys recruited, or we have a process there. We have all those things, but we can't put on a board or on our website that we have 800 kids that have gone to play in college. I can tell you our percentages are very high of the two graduating classes we've had, but it's a smaller number.
Right.
But numbers come over time. So that's the biggest one. But it's one of those things, when you lay out, here's what we offer, here's what you pay.
Mm-hmm.
The value proposition behind that, unless it's, well, literally just to go to college,
Right.
we don't feel like most places offer that. Now, if you have other goals in mind of just playing in college, I have my own training, I'm doing all that, then what we offer really doesn't matter to you, which is fine.
Right.
But I wish every team just had a value proposition of like legitimate, here's what our program looks like, what we offer, here's everything. I wish like when you go to a hotel, you get to see all the local restaurants. I wish we could provide something like that of all the local travel teams for every family
Right.
that went out in a little online mailer so that people were like, okay, so here are the 3 that I'm interested in that actually meet what I want, or like a college fair setting for travel teams. What would that look like?
Right.
You know, the thing, everybody, like, including coaches in travel ball, we all like pit ourselves up against everybody else, and I don't think it's going to be competitive on the field as it should be.
Yeah.
But I don't think it has to be like an us hating the other organization who hates them. It's if we all came into most people go into coaching with a goal, and the goal is, well, obviously they like baseball, but if the goal is to help kids improve, then no matter what hat they're wearing, the goal should be to help kids improve and get to that next step.
Right.
And that's not always going to be in your hat.
I give lessons.
It's not always going to be in your hat.
Lessons, and there's a few kids in those catching class lessons that are not part of the organization I coach for.
Sure.
And it's, giving away some secrets a little bit. I mean, you still got to compete with us on the field, but if that kid gets there, I know I've got a lot of college debt. I want kids to not necessarily bear that burden. So it's sometimes emotionally it sucks when people leave and stuff like that, or whatever. You don't get that kid that you wanted, but the goal. If that's your goal, I like people to keep that throughout. Keep what's your goal for why you're here, and if your goal is to get that kid there, which I know is why all 3 of us do this. I think that's for sure.
Now, one thing you did touch on this a little off topic. You're giving other organization kids secrets to what you find successful. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with that, because in the end,
right,
you're going to have to find a way. You're going to have to get more creative.
Yeah.
You're going to have to study the game more.
Absolutely.
To find ways to make yourself better.
Right.
So it's really not that bad of a thing to give another organization
How else
kid.
can I advertise it?
Yeah, how else can you advertise? But it's not a bad thing to give another organizational kid advice to make them better, because in turn you're going to have to get better to keep doing that at a high level.
And they know where they got the information from.
Yeah.
They still have to be able to teach it in the right way.
Absolutely.
Or people from different places have to teach that same system in the right way to get that message across, and they have to know how to do that. And if our program stays the same every year, we're failing anyway.
Exactly.
Because we have to get better every year, and we're not the
Some
experts.
of
There's a lot
the most
experts out there.
infielding instruction that I give is when I'm coaching first. We're on offense.
Yeah.
Most times it's like I see a first baseman that did something wrong. I don't want to make another coach mad, but I'm just like, hey, this is how you should probably do it. You don't believe me? Just go look at so and so. Go look at when Rizzo does it. You know what I mean? On YouTube, just do that. There needs to be, I think, more of that mentality, and a lot of this will chill out. A lot of this vitriol and anger of, the amount of things that I've heard that BAM does that we don't do.
Oh, I've learned a lot about our
program. I've learned a lot about our program. Man. I'm like,
That
I
isn't
didn't
real.
know that was a thing. I didn't know we do that. I didn't know you were playing for free. I didn't know that. You know, I didn't know that.
Congratulations,
we
though.
Congrats, man. You know, I mean that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, but I think if people can get away from that, I understand that obviously we said there's no governing body. Things are sloppy. Things can be slimy in a sense. I mean, like I said, the sliminess, like. Who's to say what is and what is not when there are no rules?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We have to look at it that way, otherwise we're being, disingenuous about it. But I mean, define as parents or as players that may be listening to this. You know what I mean? And if you're in that process and deciding where you want to go, the questions that you talked about to ask, the questions that you talked about as a parent, the things that you look at, what's most important. Find what's most important. And ask those tough questions. Don't just fall into the, we have a pitch. I mean, I'll be straight up about it. You know what I mean? When we're trying to pitch a kid.
It's the elevator pitch.
Yeah, exactly. We have that. Mm-hmm. Don't fall in love with that. There are tough questions out that go beyond just, what are your fees? Mm-hmm. Can I afford that? And how good is this team going to be? Mm-hmm. There's a lot more to it, especially at a young age. You said it's different we got to change how we're going to do it for older ages. Older ages, we're talking less development. Sure. We're talking more showcase, you know what I mean? We're spending less time out there in the facility of, working on, we'll do some stuff with fundamentals, but we're spending less time with that. We're teaching you how to play the game now, right? Yeah. Manage it, self-managing.
Even that though, at the end of the day, managing a game is great. And I mean, we do evaluations for our coaches and that's what they're graded on, is how they manage games and practices. But there's a lot of other factors that we grade on too. And one of them that we haven't even touched on is just, are they building the kid to be a successful human being and challenging him there? Because the percentage of people, one, that play in college versus play at a professional level is very, very small. Right. So when we're coaching an organization that has, for us, 200 kids about, of those 200 kids, odds are none of them play professionally. Maybe one. Maybe. That'd be awesome. But they're all going to be professional at something. So how have we, from the time they stepped into our doors and we said, hey, we're going to build you as a baseball player and in your character and as a person, how have we pushed them to become a better person? Because if you're not getting that from a team either, and you're just getting baseball, I mean, I know some people don't necessarily want character building from a coach, but if I'm not building character and I'm your coach, then I feel like I'm failing. You can go somewhere else.
I've had parents that when I've talked to, when I say we offer that, or that's something I try to do, they're like, well, I'll do that at home. We're here because he wants to play college ball and travel baseball more than rec ball. And I think definitely more than high school ball nowadays is the route to get them there. You know what I mean? Right. So, I mean, I'll parent my kid. And I totally respect that. You know what I mean?
I do too, but influence is contagious.
Exactly, 100%.
I mean, you're not going to not have an impact on them in the dugout and just the way that you talk to them, and that it's going to affect them somehow.
Right. So I was actually listening to a great inspirational, motivational speaker the other day, and he said, you are a combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Well, I know in my household, the 5 people my son spends the most time with is myself.
Poor kid.
I know. It's awful.
So 20% bad. What else?
He has it rough in life. Myself and 4 other baseball guys, whether they be coach, hitting instructor, fielding instructor, but it is a lot more time with baseball family than it is his real family.
Right.
And I can honestly say I see that in his attitude and his speech, just him as a person.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. I mean,
I don't think most families look at that when they're picking a team.
Right.
I think they realize it midway through the season if things aren't going well or their kids are acting a different way. One of the funniest things we ever dealt with, we were in Florida for a tournament. We had a kid, great flowing locks, awesome pitcher. And he talked back to his mom, and she turned the car around and made him get his haircut immediately. And I asked her, I said, why'd you make him get his haircut? It was so beautiful. She goes, because when his attitude started to match his haircut, it needed to go.
That's so
and I was
funny.
like, I love that.
So
she was like the sweetest woman of all time. She was like, I'm not dealing with that. No, he talks back, that hair goes. You want to have great flow? That's fine. Just be respectful.
That's so funny.
And I love that. But I mean, that's a side note. But it's just funny to see, like, everybody wants their kid to be a good kid. but then you put him in positions sometimes that don't build him up to be a good kid, and you wonder why and what's going on. And well, maybe if we valued that more in this process, that would be something cool. Because all the kid sees is like, yo, this team likes me, they think I'm good, and they reached out to me, and they feel like a professional. Like that time of the year, they feel like, winter meetings were going on, it's pretty cool, I have some offers, like I'm really good. It's hard not to. It's good for a kid's confidence to feel that, but what you do with it is the hard part.
Here's my question. At what point do you think the parents should let the kid make the decision of who he plays for?
I think that's
I mean, let's face it. If money, because let's face it, what people offer is never going to be the same. But let's say money was apples for apples, what everybody cost, and the boy had the chance to make a decision. At what age should he probably be given that, where the parents finally just sit down and be quiet?
I think that's. I don't think that you can probably paint with a broad stroke and give it a 16 years old or 17 years old or whatever. I think that's probably an individual kid to individual kid basis, and because some kids, we have some kids. I don't want to throw any names out there, but there's a kid that's new to our team that for our 15U team that I think could probably go out and be on his own right now and be extremely successful as a 15-year-old kid. You know what I mean? And
come on,
I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. The kid is just, I mean, he just seems like he's got it all together. He's 15, but I think that there's other kids that need pushed in the right direction. I think one of the reasons we're doing this topic is, we talked about, obviously everyone knows the process is ugly because everybody goes through it in some fashion, coach to coach, parent with a kid. You go through the process. Everybody sees how ugly it can be without the rules being set. So defining, I guess, in our minds, we're transparent. We're under no impression that we absolutely do things right. We're always changing and trying to be progressive about it. I think defining what those parameters are that you should be looking for when you're picking a team or whether or not you're staying with the team. You know what I mean? What's going to make you want to stay? You don't want to be that guy, that player that says, I played for 7 teams in 8 years.
Right, the 1-year lease guy.
Yeah, the 1-year lease guy. You don't want to, so
he's that trade deadline, pick him up, he's going next year.
Right.
So I think some of those.
So I think that's more of a, like, I'm letting my kid make all decisions for himself, or making most decisions, difficult decisions for himself, and trying to give input. I think that's a theme that's probably going on with that kid individually. At least that's my take on that, I think. Okay. So I think, what would be good is, let's talk a little bit about maybe our process, because we are transparent. You know what I mean? Like, when we are recruiting, when we're recruiting, one thing we talk about with kids that are going to college is a lot of people don't know how the recruitment process works because they're not necessarily being recruited yet. What can I expect? I got this email that goes to, there's a camp going on in Missouri, and they send it directly.
The blanket email.
Like, no one knows what's true and what's not. So at least from our process in the world that we live in, as far as recruitment, I mean, we were transparent about it. Most teams have a pretty good idea, or at least think they have a pretty good idea of who's on their roster going into open tryouts. Yeah. I don't. Sure. I mean, if you.
I would preface that for major organizations or like top programs in the state.
Yes, exactly.
When you're looking at considered A teams, right, for those age groups, based on returning players or private workouts or interest previously. Most of those are going in looking for 2 to 3 at a tryout. Right. Second teams are typically pretty open. Right. And these primary teams do save a couple of spots just in case somebody shows up that's just slinging it across the field or is pumping. And nobody will turn down a pitcher. I mean, that's the thing. If you can.
So that's a good question. Another good question for people to ask is, you think you're going out and trying out for a team, you're thinking this team's got to fill. This team's got 13 spots they need filled. A lot of those spots are already spoken for. So ask that question. Hey, how many are you actually looking for?
And in what positions?
And in what positions?
As a parent, when do you have time to ask for that? Because, there's websites you can go to that show where everybody posts when their tryouts are, or their website, whatever it is. Hey, come to open tryout, fill out the registration form, and that's all you see.
Social media.
I mean,
every program's on their social media.
But I'm just saying, for people that aren't listening, I know how to do it personally, but that's because I've been in the baseball community.
Not every team and organization is going to be as open about that, where you can get that information directly from the horse's mouth being a coach.
True.
Hopefully you can, but I would try to get a hold of a coach for that. I mean,
But that's what I'm saying. That's the hardest question to go, hey, what are you actually looking for? Because
How
honest are they
going
gonna-
to first baseman? I don't want to.
how honest are they gonna be?
Right.
Yeah.
they're not, because
2
they want
hours
to
on
see
a
if you
Sunday
come
and a
in.
tryout fee in a lot of cases.
Because like you
know?
said, they leave spots open. If you
Right.
happen to have that one kid, they're like, yeah, he just hits bombs. We're not
Right.
letting him go.
Right.
You never know. So they're
Right.
not going to tell you, oh, we have 4 first basemen. We don't need you.
Right.
And we had it both ways this year. We had a catcher that was really, really good that ended up as a second team guy because we were already full from catchers and they just didn't know coming in. He's an awesome kid. We love that kid. And then another one who just showed up was an outfielder, primarily outfielder. We'd never seen before, no idea where he was from. And the kid just did an incredible job at tryouts, and he was one of the few that we took from an open tryout. I think the other team in our age group took 11 from an open tryout, maybe 10 of their 12. I mean, it is a little bit.
They were a second
second
team,
team.
so they were
Yeah.
more open. Okay.
And this idea of if they're not on a first team, that means they're not good is so asinine. Of like, just because your kid's on a second team, it can still be a very competitive team. Like, really competitive. There's a lot of
Yes.
programs that have 2 very, very good teams. But that's a question to ask of what level are they going to be playing? Are they still going to be seen in the right tournaments? There's a lot.
And here's the parent side of it for being on a first or second team, because I've heard my son make the comment, I'm not going somewhere and being on a second team. He's made the comment. I'm not
Sure.
going to say he hasn't. As long as second team, and this is, in my opinion, this is what I would tell him, as long as you're playing in the same competition level that other team is, I'm happy with it.
Right.
Right.
Now, am I wrong in a sense? Probably, because it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Whether you're playing A level, B level, or C level, as long as you're competitive,
Right.
I'm probably a little wrong
in
in what I'm
an
saying.
older group setting for sure. Like,
Yeah.
I think, like, here's the thing: if you're, and this is just my opinion, if you're paying for travel ball at an older age group and they're not at top recruiting tournaments and they're just kind of playing locally, I think you're just paying a lot of money for some
fun.
For some fun.
For some
And
fun,
there's
right.
nothing
Or
wrong
to
with
focus
that,
on
but-
high school ball.
Yeah, or to focus on high school
Which is
ball.
great.
Yeah,
If they want to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, but let's be realistic about what that is. I want people to understand that, like, I probably couldn't even estimate how many options there are out there for teams to play for. But if you want your kid to play in college, if you want your kid the opportunity to be seen, there's certain settings that are much
Oh, yes.
better than others. The younger age group, like I was talking about, it doesn't matter if you're getting the development you need to become a better player, and to hopefully see if you can see far enough down the road that yes, it's important right now, what's going on, but if it's the right process, if they're in the right step of the right process in a good
Direction?
good direction, sorry, then it's okay if you're losing a little bit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It doesn't have, there's these teams that win a ton of trophies at 9 years old.
Yeah.
But
Those are my favorite kids, though.
Yeah. Right.
It's almost bad.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because when you're like overly developed and really good at 9, then you just spend 15 year talking about how good you were when you were 9.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of kids that were that kid that everybody says, oh man, you should have seen them hit when they were 9.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather watch them hit when they're 15 if they're still good.
Mm-hmm.
But those kids don't work as hard.
Right.
So that goes back to our point of, those early age groups. Teach them to love the game, teach them to work hard, teach them the right values of how to do that, and then hopefully they continue to develop over time. But we lose some of that.
Right.
Unfortunately, it goes both ways on that. Like I said, it's a business from both ends.
Oh, it is.
It really is.
Right.
It is. But those are great questions to ask going into a tryout. I mean, is the team full? What positions are you looking for? And is it worth my time to try out?
Right. Right. What tournaments are you going to play in?
Right.
You know what I mean? Trying to getting a realistic perspective of where your kid's at is tough
That's
because
the
they're
hardest.
your kids.
That is the
Because-
hardest part
yeah.
because if
accepting
it's-
that is one thing.
Yes.
Gaining it from someone that you got to understand. I mean, I think people understand is that when you're being recruited, you're up. Most people are upselling the product that they have.
Mm-hmm.
They're not under promising and over delivering. They're upselling, so they're saying that you fit into this. I mean, gaining a realistic perspective of where your kid's at is hard. So I see why some parents, for sure, have an unrealistic perspective of where their kid is at.
Mm-hmm.
So especially as you're older, if you're younger, I think we're talking about the process and trying to kind of where we're at, like the process as a younger age group player, find for what you can afford, something that's going to hopefully provide for you the best development possible. Ask about training, don't ask about where'd you play.
Exactly.
If where'd you play provided you the training that you have to become a good coach, great.
I
But
still
ask those
think all
coaches,
the way up.
yeah, ask those
First
coaches,
question's training.
what do you know and how do you know it? I don't feel like that's an offensive question to ask. You know what I mean?
If they're offended, they're probably not very good.
Yeah, you probably should play for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What are you going to do to make my kid better? Because you got to know that at a younger age group, no one's watching you.
Mm-hmm.
They can, you can go play a 14U tournament where they can say that there's going to be some college coaches there, but they're not there. And if they are, they ain't watching because they can't talk to you. And they know in 3 years when they can't talk to you, you might be wanting to be a swimmer or not
Exactly.
you might not want to be a baseball player. So a younger age group for that for sure. Forget where I was going with this, but no, at an older age group when you're deciding on where you want to go. You know what I mean? Taking organizational hats off it, just like in your guys' mind, what do you think the best way to help make the process easier on yourself? What's the best way to help to decide where you want to go? I mean, what would you look for and to try to make the process less, stressful?
Organizationally?
Yeah, if you're going to try to decide where you're going to go.
For me, I mean, I'm going to have my same questions I've already told you, but it's honesty.
Yeah.
How honest are you going to be with me and tell me, hey, this is what we have. Sorry, we don't really have this. And, let's face it, I would much rather somebody go, hey, we're really good at this, but we don't have a very good hitting instructor. Mm-hmm. Well, that's great because my son may not use your hitting fielding instructor because he may not understand his terminology or whatever the reason is.
Right.
I would much rather them be completely open and, in turn, I'll be the exact same way.
Yeah.
That's just how we work.
I would say if I was a parent too, if someone said, "Hey, you have a guaranteed spot, you're gonna be my shortstop, or you're gonna be my catcher," I'm probably out. If in my mind as a parent.
And some parents ask for that. Like, I want to know that my kid is going to be the shortstop.
And I just don't think that's good.
I want you to know that your kid better work to be the starting shortstop.
Right, you say that.
He better be the best one.
But you know how many times parents hear that throughout the year?
A ton. And I think it's bad.
Right.
I could tell you right now of at least 4 occasions, sitting in the stands or sitting down in my lawn chair, whatever it is, hey, looks pretty good. He could come over next year and he'd start. Okay, cool. I mean, that's one of the offers that's all the time.
Right.
So you say hearing that would lead you away from it. Yeah. You hear it from so many anymore.
Right.
You do.
And there's a lot of people that hear it, but you got to remember there's one starter. There's a lot of people are going to hear that, and there's only going to be one of them that...
You're exactly right, but that once again, that comes back to them being honest to us as parents.
Well, at the same token, the colleges are doing a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
Right?
Tell them that he's going to come start.
We're over offering
line.
But when it's happening at that level, of course it's going to happen at this level. And the sad part behind it all is I really do think at the heart of it, most people are good. Like most coaches, most organizations are in it for the right reason to try to help kids and to get people to the next level and to do that.
They're not deliberately lying, is what you're saying.
Yes.
They're not going out there.
I think that what they say in the moment when they're saying that, they're like, I do think he'll be there. And then a week later when another kid comes in, he's like, well, he's better. He'll be there. Yeah. So he offers him the same spot.
Why are we doing
and
this?
And then over time, we're like, uh-oh. Yeah.
Why are we doing this week 3, not, unfortunately, with how short season is now, week 6 or 7?
Right.
Instead, week 3, he's going, hey, you want to start next year?
Right.
No, because you're going to see Johnny next, and he's going to do the same thing, and you're going to offer him the same thing.
That's, I think, the biggest issue.
But then again, I say that about organizations, and you have parents that give you the yes, you take up a spot, and then 6 weeks later they go down the road as well. So it happens on both ends.
It does. It does. And I think at the end of the day, if there was loyalty on both sides, to an extent, loyalty, yes, but you also have to do what's best for your kid. And I think that just means not committing too soon. You have to know what you're trying to do.
At the end of the day, it's, like I said, it's business. I'm a consumer. I'm spending $15,000, $2,000, $2,500, and you're the business. You've got to make money to continue to build.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the cool things that we do, one of my favorite things that we do, is if players come to us or they come to a tryout and it's just not the right fit. One, we talk to the parents beforehand of like, hey, here's who we are, here's what we offer, here's how we go about our business. if this isn't the right fit for you, we'll give you your tryout feedback, you can go.
Right.
And I love that because it's not about a tryout fee. It's about finding people the spot that they will thrive at. But more so than that, I think it's a pretty unique thing to say, hey, based on what you want, tell us what you're looking for. We can help you find an organization that fits that. We know a lot of the organizations around and what they offer. Mm-hmm. If everybody did that, and there was really this system of helping people find the right place, I think there's a lot of teams out there that have a niche. Right. And the ones that don't drop at 14U anyway because they know that there's already ones in there that they're not going to be successful.
Right.
Exactly. So will it happen? No, because egos get in the way and mm-hmm. baseball's too old school for everybody to get along and cooperate. That'd be crazy.
Right.
Why would we do that?
That would make any
but
sense.
that is the issue. I
right.
think. So from the consumer side, it's just actually sit down with your kids and figure out what you want and know what you want going into these things. What are the top 2 or 3 things that you can do? What can you afford? Because unfortunately, some of the time it's going to be based on costs. And that includes travel costs and everything you're doing over the summer, not just player fees. What does your kid want? Where do you see him going in the future in it, which will dictate how much you're willing to spend? And is it actually worth leaving the place that you are if you're happy?
That's a big one. That's a big one because, you got to think about where you're at and is it worth the leaving? And I know a lot of people do. They're asking each other, "Are you staying? Are you staying? Are you staying?" Start from the U spot first. I don't think it's necessarily. There's so many kids going to colleges and getting recruited and getting signed. Not all of those kids are winning trophies on Sunday. So don't let somebody tell you we have the best team. We're definitely gonna all the college coaches are gonna be there on Sunday to see the best. Yeah, they are. They're also gonna be there on Thursday. They're also gonna be there on Wednesday at 8 a.m. when we have a game.
Exactly.
They're gonna be there because they need people. There's so many college players that not
Thursday,
all of those guys.
You're gonna see a number one.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
And that one kid that plays left field that mashes is going to be seen when he rocks.
And if you're winning more than 3 or 4 trophies in a summer at the high school level, you're either all going D1,
exactly,
or you're in the
wrong tournaments. That's it. That is it. Those are the only options at that point. Because there's going to be so many quality teams that eventually you're going to take a loss. You're going to take a couple losses.
For sure.
So I guess to sum up and to bring it back all in, when you're in our opinion. When you're looking for a team to play for, asking questions is a big deal. Don't feel afraid to ask questions. The main ones we talked about, price for sure. What are you getting for that price? Mm-hmm. Give me a realistic trying to gain a realistic understanding of where your kid's at and try not to be offended by that. Try to be good with that. It's best for you, it's best for your kids, best for the time and the money and the energy you're putting in, I think. What else have we talked about as far as a younger age group? Figure out if there's development because showcase teams at younger age groups, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It's cool to win and everything, and maybe that is what's going to get you to that point because you're in that good organization that's been around for a long time that no matter what, they're going to have winning teams at every age group and stay in that organization. You'll probably get recruited at some point for sure. But older age groups, we talked about being in the right tournaments, ask the organization that. But all in all, I think make sure you're having a good experience. I think for sure based on parents getting along, kids, are they enjoying who they're playing with? You can't hate it at the end of the summer.
No,
there's a lot of reasons.
If you're not enjoying it, it's no longer a game. That's the thing.
For sure.
And the last thing I'll say, I know you touched on what does that cost include?
Right.
That is not asking how many uniforms you get and what type of bat bag you get and if you get a logo on your helmet with a number.
Right.
That's what's the winter training? Is there one-on-one training? What do you do in the classroom? Is there classroom? What sponsorships or partnerships do you have that provide other opportunities for growth? And there's a lot there, and teams are very different in what they offer, but offering is not apparel.
Right.
Apparel is apparel.
Right.
You can buy that on your own if you want it or choose not to, but offering is what the program will actually give you to help you develop as a person and as a player.
What they can do for you.
And most of the time we don't ask that because most coaches just say practices, games, uniforms. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
Right.
It's like, no, that's not what you offer. That's what you give.
That's been the great thing about here. It's been much more than that for us.
Sweet.
That's the goal.
So, Well, with that, we just did an hour. Like I said, I thought this would go
Yep,
fly
we did.
pretty quick.
I was supposed to leave at 4:50.
So
Yeah.
we've definitely we've touched on a lot of things. We talked about the topic being the process for sure, and everything. We've bounced around a lot of things within that process. If there's questions you guys have about things that maybe we do as coaches or things that we didn't say,
Slide
that
in.
more questions,
Just slide in.
comment on it. Ask us those questions. We'll post another video trying to answer those things, or we'll personally reach out. Is there questions just about the process itself? How does it work? Things that we may not have touched on because we kind of I don't think we rushed it, but this is our first time doing this. Let us know. We'll definitely answer those. We're gonna post this out on our Instagram, IN_BAMFAM, Facebook, Baseball Academics Midwest on Facebook, and our new YouTube page, Baseball Academics /Fast Pitch Academics Midwest.